players, huh?
Just gonna chop it up. You do all the floor, repair, all that kind of stuff.
I have a great issue. Yeah, just like a little reconnect.
We just argued the whole technician for this.
Yeah, everything's cool. Thanks. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, that one goes to my argument. I don't think
All my favorites are the Giants had a surprise.
Welcome back to RJ's Pub here in the Greg Kampe Show. My name is Neil Rule, the voice of the Golden Grizzlies, and the Greg Kampe Show brought to you by Henry Ford Sports Medicine, the official team physician for Oakland University and you. For more information, visit henryford.com/athletes. And right now, as promised, we are joined by, I call him the pride of Troy High School, three-time All-Stater in. He is Brody Parker. Brody, what's going on, man? Thank you for coming out tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to do this. This is a first for me, so I'm excited.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
all right. You what is your major, Brody? Do you think about journalism or anything like that? Or?
I'm majoring in business management right now, so that's the route I'm going.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, man, did want to chop it up with you, and it's just one of those things, Brody. For me, and you heard me talk about this with Coach Kampe. You're one of the very first players that has the same hairstyle as my son. My son's a sophomore in high school, so it's not that far.
Yeah.
It's not that far off. So I'm getting old, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself, man. Don't get old.
Yeah, right? I'm living out the glory days right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But Brody, as far as it goes, I mean, just talk about it. And your story a bit unique, certainly for this season as well, because you came off redshirt at Syracuse. Originally, what's going on right now was not the original plan for you, was it?
No, actually, coming into the season, I was planning on redshirting just because we have a great point guard here, Jalen Moore. He does the job very well, and it's just just thought we needed a little bit more time to develop and get some stuff down that I needed to do. But duty called, and they needed me to step up and play. I was eager to do it because just like the type of person I am, I'm all for the team, and I just want to see the team success. So whatever they needed me to do, I was ready for.
Because in today's day and age, right, eligibility and years and things like that's your career, man. I mean, so I think it does say a lot about you personally because you didn't bat an eye, right? Like,
yeah, not at all. Yeah, I was ready to go. Yeah, I was ready to go. With the eligibility thing, especially with COVID, I was the first person. I was like the first class to come in after all the freshmen got an extra year for COVID. So I'm kind of behind on all that, but I thought the redshirt year was gonna kind of catch me up with my own class. But nonetheless, I was excited to play because obviously I want to be on the court and be out there to help my team. So I was really okay with it.
Yeah, and speaking of that, so you hop off redshirt. Your first game is at the Carrier Dome.
Yeah, it was at the Carrier Dome. Crazy experience, especially for me not to be playing in any games at all. Just being a supporter from the bench to finally be out there against Syracuse, it was a pretty cool experience for sure.
Does that blow your mind the same way? It's still even to this day, over 10 years in this business, when we walk into places like that, like Syracuse or Kansas or Gonzaga, all the different places we go. Does it blow your mind every time you go in there? Like you see these places on TV, like they're not real. These are TV places, but here you are.
Yeah, it's still a little new to me. It doesn't blow my mind because I have been to a lot of like games to just watch and spectate. So I've been in these arenas, but to finally be on the court and for people to be like the one watching me is pretty cool.
Brody Parker here, our guest on the Greg Kampe Show, live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. So give us your background, Brody. You're a local guy, out of Troy, so just 10 or 15 minutes away from the arena, depending on that rush hour traffic. Give us your background, Brody.
Really, I'm just a family guy. Really, that's what I pride myself on. Just loving to be around my family. That's how I love to spend my time. That was kind of played a lot into why I came to Oakland because I just wanted to be there with my family and see my brother grow up and play basketball for Troy High School. So I'm a big family guy. I love to watch movies and watch TV shows. So those are a few things I like to do.
And basketball is in your blood.
Basketball is in my blood, yeah. My dad is a coach as well, so he really kind of like bred me into it. Really, and from a young age, we had little Tykes hoops.
Yeah.
He was rebounding for hours for me, just passing it back and forth. So this is all I've really known since I was a little kid.
Yeah, and that is a great story. What about that? What about being the son of a coach?
Yeah,
because it seems to me that there's some pressure attached to that. Like when you play, you play AU or when you play in high school or whatever. Is there a lot of pressure when you're a coach's son?
I wouldn't say a lot of pressure, but you do have a lot of expectations to fulfill, especially from your dad, not just from other coaches, from your dad, because you come home from the court and he's still the coach at home. So you come home, you're hearing about it still, like what happened on the court instead of what actually, So you just got to be tough for it, really. And my dad was always tough on me as a kid, but it paid off because playing for Coach Kampe, you got to be tough too. So he just really helped me with a lot of things like that perspective.
I looked around the room when you said that. There was a lot of not loud laughter, but there was a lot of laughs. What about that? Being tough, because you do. I mean, Coach Kampe is demanding. I think that's a fair word to use. That he's demanding. And when you go back through the annals of Oakland basketball and you go back and talk to the players that have come through there, they say that, though. They say that kind of formed them a little bit, that helped them be the best player that they could be. What about being tough and playing for a demanding coach?
Yeah, it's for sure not for everybody. Like, you have to be mentally tough to do it. But I think it only is beneficial to the players because this basketball stuff is really our lives. Like, this is what we do. We pride ourselves in this. So you really got to be mentally strong and just know that this is all for, like, a greater good, really, because you got to be tough to be in this business. It's just the reality of it.
Speaking of that, though, Brody, then let's talk about a tough time then. It wasn't too long ago. Coach Kampe talked about it. This side just got their first road win, on this recent road trip. And, you guys were 2-11, a very tough schedule, certainly, but 2-11 was what you saw on the screen. And Coach Kampe talked about the belief in this team. I get that feeling of you, that they're just you. You have a lot of confidence as well. Were you guys staggered, for being honest? Were you guys staggered for a minute, or were you always of the opinion that this was going to be the way it was going to go?
Being completely honest, we always had belief.
Yeah.
We've been saying it from the start, all through the season. It never stopped. How we all believed in each other. I think getting a few wins has really collectively brought us together more because we just realized okay, what we thought we can actually do. So these past few games have been really big for us because we've gotten closer as individuals and as a team. So I think that's helped a lot, but we really never gave up throughout the season. We know what we're capable of, and we just know that our team is built for bigger things.
You got a lot of confidence, man.
We do.
I'm talking about even you personally, the way you look, the eye contact, the way you sound, the way you speak, everything like that. You make me believe, man.
Yeah, these words are 100% truthful. I'm not really thinking about what I have to say. I'm just talking this is really how we feel, and we're just excited for the future, and I'm excited for the future.
That gets me going, man. It does, though. You were a big-time recruit, a top 10 recruit in the state of Michigan. Like yes, I said, a 3-time All-Stater as well. what's the biggest difference, Brody? You know, and people talk about like the speed of the game, but you never really hear people talk about the size. I mean, when you see when you were playing for Troy High School and you're playing in big games and everything like that, you get to Division I and you're in Syracuse.
Mm-hmm.
Now the dude's 7 foot with a 7'4" wingspan. Do people? I feel like the size is underrated. People always talk about the speed of the game, but they never talk about the size.
Yeah, at the college level, there's just different athletes. Luckily for me, I played on a pretty solid AAU circuit, so I was pretty accustomed to seeing that type of size and length. But when everybody out there is like that, it's a little bit different. But it's just something you learn through experience. Really, just you have to play against these type of people to learn how you can make a difference out there. Because at this size, it is definitely harder to make a difference out there. You just got to find a way and just be smart about it. Really.
How are you getting acclimated to it, Brody? Because as we said, you kind of got thrown into the fire at Syracuse when the team was banged up and they needed you out there. And now, you know, what I saw on Sunday, you came out there. It seems as though the game has slowed down to some degree for you. Very confident-looking jump shot that you knocked down at Wright State. And I would imagine for you that felt good to see the ball go through the net because, you know, I've seen you in practice. I know that you're capable of, I call them heaters. You're capable of going on a heater.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot better since Syracuse. I'm just becoming more comfortable.
Right.
Day by day, I'm becoming more comfortable. I'm learning my role on the team, and I'm learning what I can do to make a difference on the floor. And everything's just really starting to slow down for me, really. I'm starting to play with more pace and just not get sped up. And a part of that is just having the intelligence about our team, like learning the defense. So I'm not out there thinking too much or thinking the spots I need to go. It's kind of turned into instinct at this point. So that's been really helpful.
That certainly is the key, not only basketball but in life. You know,
Yeah,
just run out those ends, don't think a lot, bro.
Yep.
That's what I've learned.
Exactly.
Hey man, I appreciate you coming through here and chopping it up with you, man.
Yep.
Very confident young man, and it's good to get to know you a little bit.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Give it for Brody Parker, everybody. When we come back, it's Ask Kampe time on Twitter. Send us a tweet with the hashtag Ask Kampe. We will get through all of those. So speak now or forever hold your peace, at least until next Monday. Anyway, we'll be back live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. It is the Greg Kampe Show. Yes, sir.
You're good.
You're good.
It just keeps playing. Correct. Yeah, because we were still getting it in our ears. I don't think it was going out over the air, but we were still getting it in our ears. So. Yeah, no worries, man. Cool. All right. Thirty seconds.
Learn.
Welcome back to the Greg Kampe Show, brought to you by RJ's Pub. We are live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. Happy to have everybody along with us. The Greg Kampe Show is brought to you by the Pino Insurance Agency, LLC of Meebic Insurance. They cater to the educational market. If you're looking for affordable insurance and a knowledgeable insurance agency, go online to pinoinsurance.com. Again, that's P-I-N-O, pinoinsurance.com today. Big thanks to Greg Hessen back in our Odyssey studios. And Camp, it's about that time for Ask Kampe.
You know, 39 years ago, I signed up with Pino Insurance. And now, 39 years later, they're sponsoring my show. Wonder if they've used the residuals of all my payments to pay for this.
You and me both, because my wife's a teacher too. So we're on the Meebic Insurance as well.
Right.
So maybe you and I have it covered.
Yeah, when you went to them, you said, since we paid for it, you guys.
No, I just, for me, it'd be like, hey, on that deductible, how about we slide that one through?
Yeah, no kidding.
That ain't gonna happen. What comes quicker, by the way, too? Like that insurance premium bill. That the mail's never late for that somehow. That always gets to the mailbox all the time, or that email always gets to your inbox all the time.
Have you ever had a client?
Yes.
It's amazing how much the bill goes up when you have like a smaller. I had a pipe burst once years ago.
So did we. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we live in Michigan
Right.
now, right? And you would think that it's amazing the difference in your premium
When you like
right.
ask for
So
something.
I mean, I think what you got to do is you got to say, no, let's see, this is going to cost $3,000 to fix. In the next 10 years, if I have them fix it, it's going to cost me $12,000. Right? So, you know what? I'm just going to fix this myself.
You gotta pull that Greg Kampe Show card, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's what you have to do. And just tell them, say, this is the most listened to show on this station at this time in the world. So there you have that. But no, it is time for the Ask Kampe segment. Nick Lucido, our guy who's in the house here tonight, says, Camp, 2 important conference games decided by a basket down to the wire. What are you telling the team in the huddle of both games, on that final possession or final time they're on the bench?
Well, in all honesty, what we really preach at that time is, we've worked so hard, and if you want to win a championship, you've got to get stops. And we never talk about the offensive side of it. And would never put anything in their minds or their brains or anything like that, other than if we're like both nights, we didn't call timeout. When you have Jalen Moore, you don't call timeout, right? When maybe you have Travis Bader, you're going to call a timeout because you want to make sure that you set and demand the play to get him the shot, right? But when you've got Jalen Moore or Reggie Hamilton or Kay Felder, Jonathan Jones, all the great point guards we've had, you don't call timeout. You let them play. Now, when you score is when you call your timeout because you want to verbally say to them, A, we've worked really hard. If you're going to win a championship, you've got to get a stop. B, you want to say to them, please check out. Let's not get beat on a rebound because we're not a really good rebounding team. And if you watch us, there are times during the game that it worked for us against Wright State that Rocket got a layup because by the time the ball batted around, he's already all the way down the floor, right? Or, I might have yelled at him 3 minutes before that, please go rebound. Instead,
I think I heard it. I think that was exactly what it was
please,
like.
Please, would you go in there and try and rebound?
If it's not too big of a bottle, please go get us a rebound.
But 2 possessions later, he got a run-out layup. And he looked at me, like, see? But you want to remind him at that time of the game how important, many games are lost on a putback. And so you've got to rebound. You've got to emphasize getting a body on somebody. So you want that in the timeout. You want to tell them what as we prep for a game, we've seen what Wright State's going to do, late in games. And late in games, Trey Calvin's going to get the ball and he's just going to dribble around until he gets his shot, similar to Jalen Moore, right? So we took him away at the end, and Amari Davis came down and shot the final shot. We checked out. We got the rebound. Keaton came up with the ball. And we had given up 16 offensive rebounds in that game. So they're one of the better rebounding teams. But we came out of the timeout. And we, you verbalize at that time stuff that you would think they know, but in the panic of that moment, they really don't. And you want to settle them down and get their mindset defensively. Again, with the ball, not calling timeout is because you want to let your players play. And everybody knows me, has heard me say a million times, players make plays. And you're going to win and you're going to lose down the stretch on the plays of players. And that's why you got to have good players. And, if you think about Oakland University, one thing we know, for 16 straight years, we've had a first-team all-league player, which is on an unbelievable streak. I got to believe Gonzaga in their league has done the same thing, but there's no Big Ten team that can say that. There's no ACC team that can, 16 straight years we've had a first-team all-league player. And in the last 12 years, we've had 5 players of the years. So we've had good players. And that's why we've won a lot of close games, because players make plays.
It's almost like I was talking with Darren McCarty about this one time, and he was talking about Sergei Fedorov and double shifting at the end of games when you're behind and stuff like that. And he verbalized it like this, and it made total sense. You don't pull a Ferrari into the garage and park it. You got to let the Ferrari be out on the road and go be a Ferrari. You know what I'm saying? When you have premium players, let them go make premium plays, right?
And you don't want the other team to be able to, set up some type of, like our defensive timeout. Trey Calvin didn't get the basketball. If we hadn't called timeout, he probably would have had the ball for the last shot. So so we don't call timeout on offense very often, because we don't want, we take it out with, there was 18 seconds to go. If Jalen can't get the ball and somebody else has to bring it up, and then we got a battle to get him the ball, all of a sudden you're down to 7 seconds. You just don't want that. So that's really the reason. I've had a lot of people text me afterwards and say, well, why didn't you call timeout? But more on Friday night than Sunday. We got the ball back, I think, with 9 seconds to go, and within 3 seconds he got fouled on that shot. That was an amazing sequence of events. We fouled on a 3, made all 3, get a stop, come down, make a 3. And the foul on the first 3 came off an airball 3 he shot.
Right.
And we always bitch on the bench every time somebody shoots an airball against us. They always get it back. Well, for once, we got it back on an airball. I don't know how Brandon, their center, just dropped it out of bounds, too. It was weird. It was like, we're finally getting some breaks, So you just think about that sequence. He makes all 3 threes. We get a stop. Rocket does a great job on Ward. We come down. He makes a 3, and it was like, how did he even shoot that?
Right.
If you look at it on film, it was like a horse shot. Like he's out there by himself, getting ready to shoot his last shot of the night before he goes in, and he just throws it up and it went in. And then we get another stop, and then he comes down with 5 seconds left, and
Got the defender in the air again.
yeah, and how that guy fouled him. I just can't believe that he fouled him. He made all 3. We stole that one. That was an unbelievable win. But a player made a play.
Player made a play, man. That's what they do. More tweets with the hashtag #AskKampe. Remember, you don't have to do these just tonight. You can do it at anytime. Anything pops in your head that you want to ask Kampe, fire it away. We keep them. We keep track of them. We get to them all. Pittsburgh Marty says the defense and energy last weekend were the best I've seen all season. What do you do as a head coach to sustain that energy level? And keep in mind too, we played at Wright State roughly 39 hours after the end of the Northern Kentucky game.
Yeah, and Marty might not have watched the first 5 minutes of the game. We didn't have a lot of energy, but we kind of knew that was going to happen. I think if you've been around the game long enough, we came off an emotional win on Friday. Less than 48 hours later, we're playing in another emotional game. They won, they were 18 down and came back and won. So they were at home, rested, and you knew that the first 4 or 5 minutes of that game, they were going to come out. And Smitty and I talked on the bench. He kept saying our legs are, there's no pressure on the ball. Our legs are gone, and we just kept saying we'll be fine. We've just got to get through that, make a few shots, which we were doing, and get that game back, and then we'll get that energy back. And we did. like I said, the last 10 minutes of the game, they got 10 points. I mean, we really guarded them. And they're the best offensive team in the league, but far and away, they're the best. They can score 8 different players. And, and to shut them down in their building to 10 points in the last 10 minutes. It's why we won. Yeah, it's why we won the game. It's definitely why we won the game.
Part number 2 to Pittsburgh Marty's question: what kind of things can you tweak for upcoming opponents to kind of keep them guessing? Do you vary the pattern, because you're more do what I do, and if we do it well, you won't be able to stop it. That's
I think that we had for Northern Kentucky, we had some stuff, and we debated the staff. We debated whether to put it in or not, and we didn't because we played them the last game of the season at home. And that could mean something. And we just wanted to have something in our pocket for that game. So there's stuff that we didn't do offensively against their zone that we believe will work when we need a quick basket or something like that. So we didn't do that. We're always saving stuff because obviously March is when you've got to be at your best. And tomorrow's practice, we're going to put a couple new sets in just so that Youngstown and Robert Morris haven't seen them. So when we need a basket, we've got something that they haven't seen to go to. But we do that every year. Defensively, we put a new slide in, and it almost beat us because we didn't. As the game went on and we got tired, we mentally, the greatest teaching tool in anything in life is repetition, right? You do it over. As somebody said, you don't do it until you get it right. You do it until you can't get it wrong, right? That's the quote. And that's really in coaching. That's what you do: repetition, repetition, repetition. And you find ways to do the same thing in practice, but make it look like you're doing something different, so they don't get bored with it. And so when you put something in on Monday that's so fundamental as what we put in, when things got tight, yes, there were at least 4 occasions against Wright State that we forgot to do the new move. We had 2 guys do the old move, and that's why you saw them get a couple outright layups late in that game. There were twice how did that guy get open under the basket like that, right? It's because 2 guys did the same thing, that a week ago they were supposed to do. And against Wright State, one of the reasons we put the move in is because Wright State could score at the basket, and there aren't a lot of teams in our league that can.
Right.
And so the move was supposed to help us stop that, and instead it actually opened it up. And Jeff and I talked about it in the car on the way home. Just repetition. Next week we've got 2 more days of repetition, and Robert Morris has a couple bigs that can score, and so does Youngstown. So we've got to really make it work this week in practice.
He says, Marty also says, I wish I could be there for the season Friday. So there is that as well.
Every table got a basket of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you lost out on that one, Marty, but we do appreciate the interaction as always. I had a question, and they have like the lead up to the national championship game, football game tonight, TCU in Georgia. And Camp, I actually meant to ask you this last week, but just the Michigan TCU game. I wanted to ask you about coaches getting out of character a little bit, right? And you and I had a little bit of a discussion about that. In Michigan, the beginning of that football game, they did some things that they hadn't done all year long, kind of led into their success. As a coach, how do you get the temperature of the room when you decide, hey, we're going to go off script, we're going to go off identity, and we're going to do this in this moment? How do you determine when that time's right?
I don't believe in I wasn't as a Michigan fan, I was mad like all Michigan fans were. The difference is I'm not mad at the coach. I'm just mad at what happened. Everybody else mad at the coach, right?
Right.
That's our business. We know that when we sign up for it. But if something goes wrong, it's going to be my fault. It's just like it's going to be Harbaugh's fault. But I think that it was the perfect storm against them. Some really poor officiating.
Right.
Which if you look at us last weekend, we overcame them. We got that flop call and we still won. we got that phantom hold call, with a minute to go in the game at Wright State, and we overcame it and won. And normally that's what makes you feel good about wins, when you can overcome that. So, they still fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line. Yes, it was a touchdown, right? Everybody knows it was a touchdown,
Right.
except the people that called them. But they still turned around and fumbled the ball on the 1 yard line. I'm not sure that's the coach's fault, right?
No doubt, no doubt. I'm just talking about like the
Right.
philosophy of, if it's
Right.
a converted linebacker. And,
Well, when they didn't kick the field goal on the opening possession, I was flabbergasted by that, because they've been criticized all year because that's all, the first half, all they do is kick field goals, and then they
Right.
blow everybody out the second half. And so I was kind of in shock when they went for it, and they ran a trick play. And the funny thing about it with the fans and that is, if that trick play had worked, God dang, he's a genius.
Oh yeah.
Right? Man, is he a genius. Dan Campbell right now, that play they ran last night, the flea flicker play,
He could be the mayor of the town. Yeah.
he's a genius.
Yeah.
If St. Brown would have pitched that ball 2 feet to the left and it would have hit his hand, and Green Bay would have picked it up and run down the field, he would have been the dumbest coach in the history of the game, right?
Yeah.
So players make plays, man. Players make plays. It's not, but I was shocked that they didn't kick the field goal, and they were kind of out of character. And maybe it's because, and this is what, if I was ever in the coaching room with them, I would ask this question: is it because Georgia beat the living tar out of them last year, and they felt they had to score points to win? And the game ended up 51-46, so they knew points were at a premium, and 3 wasn't going to do us any good. That would probably be the guess why they did it.
Last one here, real quick. Camp's kind of up against it here. Giovanni Mosheri asks, says, Camp, I'm having some trouble getting my friends to go to the games. What can I say to them to get them in the stands? How should I sell the game? My first response would be, not over holiday break. Now we're off the holiday break, so that's a good start. But what's your answer to the question there, Camp?
I would find different friends. How can you not want to go to the game? It's, geez. The reason, I was talking to some fans from Wright State, and before the game, I always talk to the people who sit around on the court, and they were saying, you're probably happy that nobody's here. The Bengals were playing, and that's a big Cincinnati fan base, right? And usually Wright State, they average more fans than anybody, but they have a really big building. And I said to them, I said, no, we want the place packed, because there's so many places in our league that you play that are big empty places.
Right.
You come to the arena, and we always get the best from the other team, because they're not used to having 1,000 students draped around them, calling them names, and that motivates them to play better. And I always say that about our place. I love it, but it also hurts us because they don't get that. Detroit comes in here, and, you've been to a Detroit game. Everybody sitting in this room has been at Detroit. And, when Oakland's playing there, that's a real place. But when Oakland's not playing there, if you watch their games, there's no one there. So they're players and come to Oakland, and it's real big time basketball. And so while I love it, it hurts us. But it's an unbelievable atmosphere. And if you're a student at Oakland and you have any interest in, having a drink and having fun, and all the things that everybody in this room, when you were a college student, all the stuff that we did, how do you not want to be there? So I would go get new friends.
All right. Well, that's the answer to that question. The Greg Kampe Show is brought to you in part by farmer-owned Prairie Farms, dedicated farmers, happy cows, real milk, drink local with Prairie Farms. We come back, final segment of the show.
Did you just say happy cows?
They got new friends, Ken. The cows got new friends, so they're happy now. All right. We'll be back with the final segment of the Greg Kampe Show. We're live at RJ's Club in Rochester.
That's how you know you did it.
Yeah.
Happy cows.
Happy cows.
We were just talking about how quiet. We were just talking about how quiet it was in the stadium there. Outside. So quiet. Yeah.
I just think, because of the Bengals.
We want to hear how it's efficient.
So, me and my girlfriend, why are you just like same time? Going down at 12 feet practice is like, she's like, we're gonna figure out what stage you're allowed to go to Twin Peaks. She's like, you can go to one near your house, you can go to one near my house, which is like a land and you can go. She's like, hey, that's where it's to see. Everywhere, you look at that, unless I'm
Copy.
Thank you.
Yeah, 1 minute, 30 and 10. Usually it's like 8:20 or something. Yeah. It's raining there today.
I think it's in SoFi.
Yes. Yes.
Download our online check-in now today and opt in to get a ready next text when you're up next. Great thoughts.
Final segment of the Greg Kampe Show, live here from RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. He is the coach, Greg Kampe. My name is Neil Rule, the voice of the Golden Grizzlies. Happy to have you with us live here at RJ's Pub, wherever you're listening on the Odyssey app, YouTube, Facebook, however you're doing it. We appreciate you tapping into the Greg Kampe Show.
So Neil, we got a full house here tonight.
Yes,
Is it because of the free fries?
yes.
Really? I thought it was because of 2 wins. It's because of the free fries.
Both things can be true.
Okay.
That's a little line I like to use here. Both things can be true. Like the Greg Kampe Show is brought to you by Henry Ford Sports Medicine, the official team physicians for Oakland University and you. For more info, visit henryford.com/athletes. Camp, I did need to sneak one more Ask Kampe question for you. We got about 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left here in the show. Chris Conway, double figures in both games at NKU and Wright State. I asked you in the video, I think it was after the game on Thursday night, as Chris Conway turned a corner. Double figures in 3 straight games. If he hasn't, it's trending that way.
Yeah, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to anoint that yet. I will tell you, everybody here, what I told him in the locker room after the Wright State game. He made 2 critical errors defensively in that game. That a couple of those layups that they got. One was on a baseline out of bounds play, and one was just the same mistake that, the difference for him is I didn't yank him.
Right.
And I didn't yank him because he's earned the right to stay out there now. He's earned the right with his play that it's okay to make a mistake. And that's one of the biggest differences in my coaching style, that's all you've seen at Oakland for the last so many years, is when I believe in a kid and I think that they're on board and that I allow them to make mistakes. Doesn't mean I don't yell at them or scream at them, but they stay out there. And Chris has got to the point now where he can make a mistake and stay out there, and that's going to help him. It's going to help us. It's going to help him. But at the same token, we got to get rid of those same mistakes, and it's only going to take time. You're never going to, Trey Townsend is getting the superstar defense game plan against him. I mean, it was unbelievable Saturday. Every time he touched the ball, even on the perimeter, they ran people at him. As soon as he dribbled the ball, they ran 3 people at him. And he's got to get better at passing out of that. He's got to get better at, corralling his dribble, reading it, and finding the open man. And you're only going to do that through having it happen, right? Well, Chris is only going to learn how to play the baseline out of bounds by making a mistake. Because we can simulate it in practice, but I'm sorry, I can't put as good players as Wright State has in our practice, right? So it's never going to be the same. I mean, obviously, If we're playing Defiance College, he could make that mistake and it's still they're not gonna score. You make that mistake against Wright State, they're gonna score.
Right.
So only through learning, having it happen, and then the coach having enough confidence in you that you'll have enough confidence in yourself to get better at it. So now his next step is to not make the same mistake over again. I think offensively, the players are beginning to believe in if I throw him the ball, as long as it's above his waist, he's going to catch it. If it's below his waist, I don't think he's there yet where he's going to catch the ball. Jalen's learning that. Everybody's learning that. I said to him in the locker room after the Wright State game, I said, Chris, if you can fix those mistakes defensively, and if you keep growing, you can be the best center in this league, the best 5-man in this league. And all the players started screaming at him and telling him the same thing. And when you're a kid like that and you're hearing it not from me, you're hearing it from Jalen Moore and from Trey and from, Blake and that. When you're hearing it from them, you should be able to go and get it, in that direction. And that's what we need him to do. We need him to keep going in that direction. There is a correlation between 4 straight wins and the way he's playing.
All right, final minute of the show, Cam. Robert Morris, Youngstown State this weekend, tied for 3rd with Youngstown State. Both of you guys at 4-2. Robert Morris had some big road wins in the Horizon League schedule. Get yourself some new friends and come on out to the arena, right?
Youngstown State, in my opinion, has between them and Detroit, when Detroit's healthy, the best starting 5 in the league. Youngstown State does. Robert Morris is one of the big surprise teams. 2 players that were with them are having tremendous years. A 6th-year player, the big, and the guard, Cheeks, is that his name? Cheeks?
Not Cheeks, yeah.
Yeah, he's playing out of his mind. When those guys play good, they went to Wright State and won. They can beat anybody in the league, so it's a tough weekend.
All right, appreciate everybody coming out to the Greg Kampe Show live at RJ's Pub in Rochester Hills. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. Well,